You're watching Indie Shooter's back-to-back coverage of NAB 2019. Sponsored by 16 by 9, Band Pro Film and Digital, JBC, Manios Digital and Film, Panasonic, Sigma, and Carl Zeiss.
Clint with Indie Shooter, continuing our coverage of NAB 2019. Again with Dan May, Blackmagic Design, and true Blackmagic fashion is a little bit like Christmas time, more new products. And this is, the demonstration was really like, wow, this is not just a keyboard, this is going to be really useful. Talk about it.
Well, it really goes into what we were thinking with DaVinci Resolve. You know, for Blackmagic Design, we've spent years making DaVinci Resolve be as capable as we can, adding, obviously, editing, visual effects with Fusion, adding in Fairlight, and it's about been more capable. And one of the things that we ran into as we started going out and talking to more and more editors was the thing that we kept hearing was that they wanted to move quicker, and speed and being able to do things fast is so important. Whether it be that time is money or we just don't have the time to get to the projects we want to, how do we go out and create something new? So the first thing we thought about was, how do we go ahead and create a new almost way of editing without being destructive to what we already have? They love the way that the editing works in Resolve, but how do you make something work completely new? And that's why we've created the new cut page within DaVinci Resolve. And this new cut page is a way for people to be able to very quickly go in and do a ton of editing very quickly in a way that is non-destructive to the actual edit page. The last thing we wanted to do is make a bunch of changes to the edit page to move fast and suddenly goes, well, you've screwed up my whole workflow because I work this way. And it's very important for us to make sure that people work the way they want to throughout DaVinci Resolve.
Now, if I understand this correctly, instead of like making all the cuts in timeline, you're going into the source monitor for the clip and actually making a lot of changes there that are automatically reflected into the timeline.
So the big thing is, that's one of the big demos that Grant did, because in the cases I think that he was using there, he was having things where we have basically some multi-cam shots where he's got everything set up through the same time code. So rather than having to spend, say, 40 minutes to go through a 40-minute show and say, go to camera 1 and go to camera 3 and go to camera 4 and then make all those adjustments, because all those time codes are all synced up, he's just going through and saying in, out, super source to the timeline. In, out, add to timeline, in, out, add to timeline, in, out, add to timeline. And suddenly that's just adding that all in, almost like doing a 3-point edit, but as opposed to having to figure out where that third point to add it to the timeline is, it's just being added in there. That's just one example of the many different ways that we could really quickly add a bunch of footage, trim what we want to have, add all the timeline. I mean, when we first started editing, when we were all very young, we didn't know that we were supposed to make bins and label all the clips that we have, and that's great that all those things are in there for a lot of long form editing, but a lot of times we just want to say, dump it all in, cut, assemble. Cool, I've got something that's I've done on the train really quickly. Now, whether that's the end of the project because I'm uploading it to YouTube, or whether that's just the beginning where I'm now moving it to the edit page to refine things or make various layers or add titling, visual effects. So it's very important for us to know that this is something that we're adding to a process, not to necessarily make something that you have to do, but something that can be done to be very quickly so that people can basically have more time to either learn the other parts of Resolve or just to get projects done as quickly as possible. And that's what that cut page has all been driven to. But as we started going through the cut page and trying to think about speed, we really thought about how we would create the DaVinci Resolve editing keyboard. And this is a keyboard specifically designed for DaVinci Resolve, and not only for the cut page, but in a way that we can now edit with two hands. Because while mouse and keyboard is certainly how a lot of us have tended to edit, there's kind of some wasted movement. We're searching for menus, we're trying to drag through, taking our hands off, and this is a way for us to very quickly with two hands be able to go in, out, shuttle, cut, add, and just very quickly and very efficiently go through an editing process as quickly as possible. And that's really what we see with the DaVinci Resolve edited keyboard, as well as the cut page that's new to DaVinci Resolve 16.
So let's talk about this a little bit. I mean, we're seeing, what I was seeing in the demo was like a two-handed means and ways of going through and very quickly getting an edit. And, you know, I always see things like this and I always think, is this a gimmick or not? But I really saw immediately that this is something that will be incredibly useful.
It's a thing where there are lots of edit keyboards out there, and there are keyboards that are just simply about having those shortcuts. The big thing that we've done is we've obviously added some of the transport controls along the right here with this actual mechanical shuttle that actually can lock up, actually gives you electronic feedback, and then obviously adding this left-hand panel, which is going to be doing all of your in and out points and how you're going to navigate a lot of the timeline. So the ability to actually create something that is not necessarily completely foreign, but is actually still very new in a way that, like we talked about with linear editing, there were great things about linear editing back in the day, other than the fact that they had to speed up a bunch of tape reels and the process to go through that. But some of the ways that linear editing was done was actually quite fast from an intellectual standpoint. They just were slow because of the process. Here we're looking back and kind of reflecting on some of that, and then also thinking about new ways of being able to do things very quickly and very efficiently. We're a hardware manufacturer, and we look at when we build products, every move that the machine makes on the pick and pull is a non-wasted motion. How do we apply that to editing and make these non-wasted motions be something that allow us to be faster with editing, both with the keyboard and the cut page in Resolve 16?
Dating myself here, half-inch editors in college, and it was shuttle mark, and
Yep.
insert. So what other functions? It looks like you can actually kind of move through the interface with different buttons, like source, it looks like, and things like that.
It really is to drive out most of the things that you're going to be doing throughout the edit process. So we didn't want something where you're going through and, like, again, through the cut page, digging through a menu. I want to change a different setting. I want to do. This is for when I'm actually gone in and say, look, I've got all these clips. I got to navigate really quickly. I'm marking my in and out. I'm adding the timeline. I'm trimming these bits quite quickly. So it isn't something that is necessarily going to replace your entire DaVinci pipeline. This isn't helping you necessarily with visual effects or Fairlight audio, but it is something when we're trying to navigate an editing timeline and being quick and very efficient with all that. But on top of that, of course, it's a really high quality product. This is a metal product. It's got the recessed lip, so if I want to put it into the actual desktop, I can do that. Ergonomically feels very good. These are actual high-end gaming keys for the gamer keyboard. So we feel like it's a great product that people that are really going and editing every day and want to move very quickly, this will be a big add for them in the future.
So when are we looking at timeline as far as release on it?
So this is going to be looking at I believe, August time frame for us, and it is a $1,000 keyboard. So it's, again, not something that we want to say, look, if you think you just want to have a nice keyboard, maybe you would like it, but this is something that is really about efficiency, and we think that people that are doing this on a regular basis and trying to move quite quickly and edit with two hands, that this is a worthy investment for them.
Yeah, and get that mouse out of your hand. That's what I was thinking about. Did I understand him correctly? USB-C out is.
Yeah, so if we look on the back here, it actually is a USB-C. And that's because we actually are powering this, and it actually powers up the shuttle itself as well, because that actually has an electronic control in there as well to give you that feedback that you have on there. So it's a really great feeling under your hands, and once you start getting the hang of going quite quickly, we believe it's a really great add for an editor.
With both hands and both feet, I'm holding on to my Mac Pro, my 2012. So will a regular USB come out of this to work?
It won't power via the regular USB, which is why we need that USB-C in there as well. So it'll have other USB-Cs outs to be able to drive other devices, mice and keyboard, but it will need USB-C because of the power that's required for the unit itself.
Do you know if an adapter would work?
I think an adapter may work. We'll have to check on that. Obviously, we're not into the finished builds yet, but right now we are pushing everything towards the USB-C.
Is there a bare minimum requirement operating system-wise?
No, this will just work with any DaVinci Resolve system. And certainly DaVinci Resolve has its own set of requirements that are far more than what the keyboard would require.
Excellent. So we're looking at August and $1,000, and people want to find out more, they should go to the website.
They can find us at our website, www.blackmagicdesign.com.
Thanks a lot, Dan.
You're watching Indie Shooters back-to-back coverage of NAB 2019. Sponsored by 16x9, Band Pro Film and Digital, JBC, Manios Digital and Film, Panasonic, Sigma, and Carl Zeiss.